Milwaukee made a mistake on a not so new impact wrench. We've got one. Let's dig in and see what it is. First, let me get on the record by saying this is not sponsored by Milwaukee Tool. We went to Home Depot, we purchased this impact wrench in the box as you see it right here, the H96B serial code model. We'll talk about what that means in just a moment. But again, this is not sponsored by Milwaukee. We went and bought our own unit to actually see what's going on inside this tool. Now, we've known for quite some time that the 2767 was having some issues out there, and they all seem to be newer models. However, they were the same model number, the 2767. Now, we started talking to Milwaukee and started discussing what we were seeing and what others were seeing, and they finally released an official statement on Friday, and that's why we're going to bring this to you now. Now, just to give you an idea, what happened was they basically upgraded some components, or what typically would be an upgrade, and did what we call a rolling change. But before we discuss anymore, we've got the official statement from Milwaukee we'll read over in just a moment, word for word, talks about what they're going to do. But let us compare this to our 2863, which is our OneKey model, which is basically the same internal components as the 2767, only it has the electronics of OneKey. But we'll be able to see the differences on what they changed in the 2767 of new, which you can tell by the serial number, which is the H96B. The old units were H96A. Again, we'll dig into that here in just one moment. But let's get started. Let's dig in, actually take these things apart, take a look at them. But first, we're going to run it through some testing just to get it warmed up to see if we notice any abnormalities, if you will. And then we're going to come back after all that and talk about our thoughts on this whole issue. All right, we've got our existing 2863, which is our half-inch high torque model, but with OneKey. And then we just bought, this is not sponsored by Milwaukee, as we already mentioned, but we just bought a 2767-20, which is the impact wrench some people are seeing issues with. And we thought we would compare these and put them side by side, take them apart, and see what we're talking about as to what the changes were. Here's our receipt from our Home Depot, manual, and so forth. We can get rid of all that. But again, we bought this on the shelf just a few days ago. So as you can see, pretty much the same tool. Again, this is the OneKey, so you're going to have a little bump out down here. Where it extends beyond the trigger a little further, but that's about it other than the Bluetooth sign here on the base of the tool. Otherwise, internals are the same, even friction ring and friction ring. So let's get to taking this apart. But before we do that, let's go run this over on our test rig just to kind of give it a run through and see if we notice any abnormalities, and then we'll come back and take this apart. All right, so our purpose here is not to do a full-blown review. We've already reviewed this years ago. I just want to give it a good shakedown before we actually take it apart, see if we notice any abnormalities, and then take it apart and see if we notice anything in there as well. Again, I know I'm not giving this a lifetime of abuse or durability testing, but I did want to give it a few shakedown runs. So I'm just going to start here. We're going to go 150 and then 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. And then we'll probably make a couple of 750 foot-pound runs as well. So anyway, just kind of taking it up to that 750 range, and then we'll take this apart. Okay, we've got our brand new 2767 and serial number H96B, which tells us that is that updated model. And let's go ahead and make sure we're in the right speed. Yeah, we're in speed 3 and we're in reverse, and we're going to start 150 foot-pounds. 150. 200, 300, 400, 500. Ooh, little hesitation there. 600, 700, 700 foot-pounds. So no problem there. We did have that hiccup on the trigger, and I fully depressed that trigger, and it kind of stuttered there for a second. I'm going to run these 3 to 700 again, and then we'll go take this apart. Well, since we broke one of the fasters, we are just going to run these two at 700 foot-pounds and then go from there. 700. And no problem, no hiccups, no stuttering. Let me tighten those down. There's that stutter again. All right, so now that we've run this a bit, noticed a couple little hiccups, but nothing as far as sheer failure by any means, just a little abnormality in the trigger that we noticed a couple of times. But let's go ahead and take this apart. We will also take the 2863 apart so that we can compare old versus new, or existing versus new, whatever you want to call that. Okay, so we've got it apart thus far. Everything else will probably time lapse there and speed it up a bit. But this is one of the major changes where these 3 pins ride on some gears, some planetary gears in there, and we'll show you that here in a moment. And there's no bearing that supports the back side of this rotating assembly here. I don't think anything else has changed in this, but we will definitely check that out in a moment and see. Yeah, bushing here. There's the anvil and the dogs. Okay. Leave that together. So that's basically your pinion gear that then drives these 3 gears here that are planetary gears that rides on a ring gear back there. So you'll see the major difference here in one moment as we take the 2863 apart. On the 2863, no pin here on the front. We do have a little wire here, so you can't just pull that away, and you can slide that out. Broke our gasket, we should be fine. But here's where the differences are. So you see now, those pins are captured inside this kind of little cage here. And then it's also supported by this big bearing on the back side. So all this is kept nice and secure, containing these gears and providing some friction mitigation, if you will, in that bearing and keeping things centered for sure. So our pinion gear runs inside of here, turns these planetaries just like on this one over here, and then there's our ring gear. And by the way, if you don't understand what planetaries does, they basically reduce the RPM and take a high RPM electric motor and create more torque by slowing it down and just providing more power. Same thing happens in your automotive transmissions. In your automatic transmission, that's what's happening. You have a bunch of planetaries in there that are bringing down the RPM and providing additional torque than what would otherwise be a direct drive would definitely not have the torque. Anyway, so there's the major difference in these two models is the caged planetary gears and the bearing, which now we do not have a bearing at all. And you can see these planetaries are just floating around. They do ride on these pins, but now all the force is now delivered to these pins in order for them to then keep those gears centered. And that's what we've seen is we've seen these pins shear, not on any of our models, but we've seen from our viewers and from others around the country, these pins will either shear or deform or either just kind of start to bend. Ours seem to line back up, but again, we can definitely see the drawback of having that design. I will say on the electronics, on the brushless motor board, it looks like we're getting additional waterproofing or at least protection on this newer 2767 model. This OneKey model is a couple of years old now. Works absolutely great. However, you can see kind of all the open electronics open to the elements, and this has got some sort of proofing on it to keep dust and water or whatever it may be off of those electronics. Okay, so I thought this may be pressed in, but actually, upon further review, I think this, yep, this is like a wrist pin lock on a piston. Spiral locks, I think is what they call these. Yep, that's exactly what that is. So take that out. I was thinking this was pressed in there, but it's not pressed in there at all. Doesn't look like, yep. So that's basically providing the friction resistant or friction mitigation, if you will. But no place for a bearing to ride like on the older 2863 or the 2767s. Interesting, very interesting. So nothing at all capturing the backside of this to keep that stable other than the pinion gear going through the center of these planetaries. And then, of course, any lateral force is going to be placed upon those three pins there. Now let's take a look at the actual email that we received from Milwaukee on this issue. We'll put this up digitally as well. Hey Tim, thank you for your patience. We've been working on this diligently this week to investigate the issue and have included the official statement from Milwaukee below. Of course, this was last week when they sent this, I think Friday afternoon. Official statement. We have recently learned that a number of users are experiencing issues with their 2767-20 half-inch high torque impact wrench with friction ring and quickly launched an in-depth investigation to understand the claims. Upon investigation, two distinct issues were uncovered. We recently implemented a new mechanical design in the model 2767-20. I'm going to stop right here. This is what we would call a rolling change. In other words, no model number changes, no major features, there's something internal, and so they call this a rolling change. Kind of gets implemented in manufacturing, but really not talked about. Typically just kind of goes along, and many times it's an improvement. Anyway, so I'll start back over on that number one. We recently implemented a new mechanical design in the model 2767-20. This new design is distinguished by the H96B in the serial code. This new design has not held up to the Milwaukee name and will no longer be sold. Our developmental testing of this mechanism did not reveal the symptoms described by users, but the feedback is clear and our decision to replace product is ultimately the right thing to do for them. We will continue to produce the original design that has been on the market for years. That is distinguished by the H96A in the serial code. We will immediately stop production of the new design, distinguished by the H96B in the serial code. There are also variances in electrical tolerances that may cause some tools to stutter. This was exacerbated by the new mechanical design in the 2767-20. So what they're saying is they had somewhat of an electrical issue as well, and they're saying that the new pin design actually made that even a little worse, so kind of compounded the issue. This was exacerbated by the new mechanical design in the 2767-20 inventory that is distinguished by the H96B in the serial code. So just think of B bad. So H96B are the problem children, or the problem products, and the H96A is the original design. So if you have an H96A, then you're absolutely fine. If users are experiencing an issue, they are encouraged to send their tool in for repair or replacement by utilizing our e-service portal, and there's a link. All products with the H96B distinction on the serial code will be replaced with H96A. So let's talk about their frequently asked questions. If I wanted to purchase the 2767 but am hesitant to do so until the inventory with the original design is available, what should I do? A, there's currently a mix of H96A and H96B serial codes for the 2767-20 inventory at authorized Milwaukee distributors. The only and this is B, the only product affected is the 2767-20 in bare tool packaging. So that's good to note. If you bought a kit, it should not affect you. So the bare tool packaging is distinguished by the H96B in the serial code. These products are being sent back to Milwaukee Tool and will be replaced with inventory of H96A by November 1st. So in essence, if you just hold, they're kind of taking care of this issue right now. Anyway, let's go to 2. Why did you make the design change at all? Why mess with a good thing? Great question. Products can change several times within their lifetime for a variety of reasons, but the goal is always to exceed the user's expectations. This time, we clearly did not hit the mark. Kudos to Milwaukee for admitting they messed up. 3, will the new tool have the same level of performance as the original? Yes, we are reverting back to the original H96A mechanical design that has been on the market for years. Why didn't you catch this before it went to market? A thorough investigation is in progress. We applied the exact same test parameters for both the original and the new design. And then the person that sent me this said, let me know if you have any questions. Here's our thoughts on this. I think Milwaukee really answered it in many ways, but we'll get a little more in depth in this. Everybody has the ability to make a mistake. I'm just very happy to see that Milwaukee admitted they made a mistake. They shouldn't have gone that route. However, I am surprised because just like Milwaukee, I've been to other facilities as well, but we've been to Milwaukee's headquarters multiple times. We've been to DeWalt, Makita, Bosch, Metabo. We've gone to Germany. We've gone to other countries. So this is not just Milwaukee that I'm talking about. But I will get specific in talking to Milwaukee where I'm surprised because we've been there. We've seen their testing facility. And even though this is made in Vietnam, so this tool is made in Vietnam, but they still pull samples continually as they come in from Vietnam, and they test those, and they have elaborate testing facilities. We're never allowed to film in there. We're never allowed to talk about it, and I hope I'm not breaking any shells by actually talking about it here. No, I know I'm not. Anyway, they have very extensive testing facilities. As I mentioned, many of the other manufacturers do too. But my point is, I'm surprised it got past that. But at the same time, I'm surprised that Tom Brady makes mistakes on Sunday. And I can easily sit in my chair on Monday morning or Sunday evening and critique everything that has gone wrong. Now, could I step in and play Tom Brady's role? Of course I could, because I could throw that pigskin a quarter mile. No, I'll leave that to Uncle Rico. But my point is, we all can sit an armchair quarterback on Monday morning. The same way with this. A mistake happened. The biggest key to me is Milwaukee owned up to it, and they said, we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. We're going to take it back to what we know works. so that there's not going to be any issues down the road. And by the way, if you have issues, hit this link. We're going to fix it for you. What else can I ask for? Again, I hate that it was made, but at the same time, I think they've taken the best course of action, short of maybe a complete recall of recalling all of them. And even Jesus Christ said, the only perfect man that ever walked the earth, as a crowd had gathered to basically stone one of their citizens that had broken a law, he said, "You who are perfect, cast the first stone." Just wanted to bring you the info. Let us know what you think. And hey, we'll chase down any questions that you may have and possibly even get another official statement. But anyway, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.